All right, so let's dive into a story that sounds like it's straight out of Hollywood, maybe
Yeah.
the thriller, right?
Right. Yeah.
The Maze prison escape.
Yeah.
Imagine this. It's 1983,
Okay.
Northern Ireland, right in the thick of the Troubles,
Mhm.
a conflict, like I said, that's been going on for decades.
Right.
And right in the middle of all of this
Yeah.
is the Maze prison,
Okay.
this maximum security facility, right?
I.
Designed to hold some of the most dangerous members of the IRA,
Yeah.
the Irish Republican Army.
Yeah. So the Maze prison
Yeah.
was known for its imposing structure
Oh, absolutely.
and intense security.
Yeah.
I mean, a place where escape just seemed impossible.
Yeah, and yet on
Yeah.
September 25th, 1983,
Okay.
38 IRA prisoners
Wow.
managed to pull off one of the most audacious prison breaks
Well, I bet.
in history.
Yeah.
Now, at the heart of this
Yeah.
is a man named Brendan Bick McFarland.
Okay.
Bick was a dedicated IRA volunteer,
Mhm.
deeply involved in the conflict.
Okay.
Before his imprisonment for a bombing attack,
Okay.
he became a key figure in the prison protests
Interesting.
and eventually the mastermind behind this incredible escape.
It's crucial to understand that for Bick and many of his fellow inmates,
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't just about breaking out of a physical prison.
Right, right.
It was about challenging what they saw as this
Yeah.
oppressive system
Yeah.
and asserting their identity as political prisoners.
So to really understand this escape,
Yeah.
we need to go back a bit
Okay.
and look at the conditions within the Maze prison
Yeah.
that led to this event.
Right.
It all started with what became known as the blanket protests.
Interesting.
These protests began in 1976
Okay.
when the British government revoked the special category status
Right.
that had been granted to paramilitary prisoners.
Okay.
The special category status meant that prisoners like Bick
Yeah.
were treated differently from ordinary criminals. They didn't have to wear prison uniforms.
Oh, wow.
They could associate freely
Okay.
with each other,
Yeah.
and they had more visits and letters.
Wow. So it was a recognition, in a way, of the political nature of their offenses.
But when that status was removed,
Okay.
the prisoners felt like they were being stripped of
Yeah.
their identity and their cause, their
Yeah.
response.
Yeah.
They refused to wear prison uniforms
Huh.
and demanded to be treated as political prisoners.
Initially, they wore blankets instead of uniforms.
Right.
Hence the name blanket protests.
Right.
But as the protests escalated and their demands were ignored,
Mm-hmm.
things took a grim turn.
Okay.
The prisoners began what's known as the dirty protest.
This is where the conditions
Yeah.
inside the maze
Right.
become truly appalling.
Yeah.
The dirty protest involved prisoners refusing to wash
Oh.
and smearing their excrement
Oh.
on the walls of their cells.
Oh.
It was a desperate attempt
Yeah.
to draw attention to their plight
Yeah.
and put pressure on the authorities.
Yeah.
Imagine the desperation,
Yeah.
the sense of having nothing left to lose
Right.
that would drive someone to live
Yeah.
in those conditions.
Yeah, these protests,
Wow.
both the blanket and the dirty protests, went on for years.
Yeah.
It was a brutal stalemate.
And in the midst of this,
Yeah.
Bick was not a passive observer.
Okay.
He was actively involved
Right.
in these protests,
Yeah.
experiencing firsthand
Yeah.
the harsh realities of
Yeah.
the prison system.
Right.
And it was during this time
Okay.
that the idea of escape began to take root.
Right.
But alongside the protests,
Yeah.
another form of resistance was emerging
Okay.
within the maze.
Yeah.
The hunger strikes.
Right.
The first hunger strike took place in 1980,
Okay.
but it was the second one in 1981
Okay.
that truly captured the world's attention.
Right.
This second hunger strike
Yeah.
was led by Bobby Sands, a young IRA prisoner
Mm.
who became a powerful symbol
Right.
of the struggle for political status.
Yeah.
Sands and his fellow hunger strikers
Yeah.
demanded to be recognized as political prisoners
Okay.
and granted the rights that came with that status.
The hunger strike was a harrowing ordeal.
Absolutely.
These men were willing to starve themselves to death
Yeah.
for their cause.
Yeah,
Bobby Sands,
right.
incredibly, was even elected to the British Parliament
Yeah.
during his strike,
Yeah.
highlighting the depth of support
Yeah.
for their demands.
It was a situation filled with tension and
Right.
tragedy.
Right.
The world watched as these men wasted away,
Yeah.
and the British government faced immense pressure to negotiate.
Tragically, the government refused to concede,
Yeah,
and Bobby Sands died
right.
after 66 days
Yeah,
without food.
right.
9 other hunger strikers also died.
It's incredible. Each death further inflaming tensions,
Yeah.
both inside and outside the prison.
Yeah.
These hunger strikes,
Yeah.
and particularly Sands's death,
Right.
had a profound impact on
Yeah.
the conflict
Yeah.
in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
It brought international attention
Yeah.
to the plight of the prisoners
Right.
and the political complexities of the Troubles.
Absolutely.
But within the maze,
Yeah.
it also hardened the resolve
Yeah.
of prisoners like Bick,
You're right.
who had witnessed firsthand
Yeah.
the sacrifices
Yeah.
made by their comrades.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The hunger strikes were really a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
They passed a harsh light, I think, on the conditions inside the maze
Yeah.
and the unwavering commitment, I think, of the prisoners to their cause.
Right.
And for Bick, who was already deeply involved in the prison protests,
Right.
the hunger strikes were a stark reminder
Yeah.
of the stakes.
Right.
They fueled his determination to find a way out,
Mm-hmm.
not just for himself, but for his comrades as well.
So amidst this backdrop of protest and sacrifice,
Yeah.
Bick began to meticulously plan what would become one of the most daring prison escapes in history.
Yeah.
But how do you even begin to plan an escape
Right.
from a place like the maze?
Exactly.
It was designed to be inescapable.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 18-foot high concrete walls,
Yeah.
barbed wire fences,
Yeah.
watchtowers,
Mm.
constant surveillance.
Yeah.
It seemed impossible.
You're right.
Yeah.
The maze was a fortress.
Yeah.
But Bick,
Yeah.
he was meticulous and
right.
resourceful.
Yeah.
He used his position as an orderly to gather intelligence,
Right.
paying close attention to guard routines,
Mhm.
shift changes,
Right.
even studying the layout of the prison's ventilation system.
Wow.
He was essentially building a mental map of the prison's vulnerabilities.
That was fascinating. How he used his everyday tasks to gather this crucial information
Right.
for the escape plan.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes about
Yeah.
his dedication and strategic thinking.
Absolutely.
But gathering intelligence was only one part of the puzzle.
Right.
They needed a way to get weapons into the prison,
Yeah.
which seems almost inconceivable.
Yeah, it was a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But Bick and his team found ways.
Okay.
They relied on a network of supporters outside the prison
Mm-hmm.
to smuggle in small firearms,
Okay.
knives,
Oh.
even explosives.
Wow.
These items were often hidden
Yeah.
in food deliveries or passed through visitors.
It's like something out of a spy novel.
I know.
This clandestine network working to equip the prisoners for their escape.
Right?
It really underscores the level of organization and commitment
Absolutely.
within the IRA, both
Yeah.
inside and outside the prison walls.
Yeah.
But even with weapons,
Yeah.
the odds were stacked against them.
They were.
How did they even conceive of a plan that could overcome the maze's formidable security?
Well, Bick's plan was audacious.
Okay.
Relying on a combination of surprise, timing,
Okay.
and brute force.
All right.
The escape was set for Sunday, September 25th, 1983,
Okay.
during the afternoon shift change,
Okay.
when security was believed to be
Ah,
slightly more relaxed.
right.
They planned to overpower guards in one of the prison blocks,
Okay.
H Block 7,
Okay.
take hostages,
Right.
and then commandeer a prison food truck
Wow.
to crash through the main gate.
It was a plan
Yeah.
that required incredible precision and coordination.
It did.
38 prisoners were involved,
Wow.
each with a specific role to play.
Yeah.
They had to synchronize their movements,
Right.
neutralize the guards,
Mm-hmm.
and maintain control of the situation
Right.
while under immense pressure.
Yeah. It must have been the
Wow.
day of the escape arrived,
Okay.
and Bick's plan unfolded with remarkable precision.
Wow.
Prisoners overpowered guards in H Block 7, taking several hostages.
Wow.
They seized control of the food truck,
Yeah.
and with a group of armed prisoners providing cover,
Yeah.
the truck loaded with escapees
Wow.
smashed through the main gate of the maze.
It was a chaotic scene, I imagine.
Oh, it
A
was.
mix of exhilaration and terror.
I'm sure.
Gunfire erupted
Right.
as prison guards attempted to regain control.
Yeah.
Some prisoners made it over the outer fences
Right.
and disappeared into the surrounding countryside.
Yeah.
Others were less fortunate,
Right.
caught in the crossfire, or apprehended by pursuing guards.
One prisoner, unfortunately, was fatally wounded during the escape.
Oh, wow.
Several others were recaptured within hours.
Okay.
Bick himself, however,
Yeah.
managed to evade capture and
Wow.
remained on the run for several years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Before eventually being apprehended and returned to prison.
Right.
Despite the fact that not all the prisoners made it to freedom,
Yeah.
The Maze prison escape sent shockwaves throughout the UK and beyond.
It really did.
It was a major propaganda victory for the IRA.
Absolutely.
Demonstrating their ability to strike at the heart of the British prison system.
Right at the heart of it.
Yeah.
The escape exposed serious security flaws within the maze and raised questions about the government's ability to contain the IRA.
It also emboldened Republican supporters.
Absolutely.
And further fueled the cycle of violence in Northern Ireland.
Unfortunately so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The escape wasn't just about breaking out of a physical prison.
Right.
It was a symbolic act of defiance.
It was.
A challenge to the authority of the British government.
Yeah.
And a testament to the dedication and organizational skills of the IRA.
It really was.
Yeah.
But beyond its immediate impact, the escape, along with the hunger strikes and other events within the maze, would have a profound and unexpected long-term effect on the trajectory of the conflict in Northern Ireland.
It seems paradoxical that such a disruptive and violent event could ultimately contribute to peace.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. How did the maze escape, with all its chaos and bloodshed, influence the path toward a peaceful resolution? Yeah, it is incredible to think that an event as chaotic and violent as the maze prison escape could somehow contribute to peace. Yeah. It seems so counterintuitive.
It is. It's a strange twist, isn't it? But sometimes, major disruptions can force people to kind of reevaluate the status quo, the escape, along with the hunger strikes, right? Brought the conflict in Northern Ireland into sharp international focus.
Okay.
The world was watching, and the pressure was on all sides to find a way out of this seemingly endless cycle of violence.
So the escape inadvertently put a spotlight on the conflict,
I think so.
Forcing those in power to finally acknowledge the need for a solution.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
It became increasingly difficult for anyone involved to simply ignore the situation in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
The escape was a stark reminder of the high costs of this conflict, both in terms of human life and political stability.
Okay.
It pushed the need for dialogue and compromise to the forefront.
And as we've discussed, the maze prison itself played a significant role in this shift toward peace.
Yeah, the very existence of the maze, was a symbol of the divisions in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
But as the peace process gained momentum, the prison began to take on a new meaning.
Okay.
It became a focal point, I think, for reconciliation, a place where former enemies could come together to negotiate a shared future.
It's almost poetic, isn't it?
It is.
This place that had been a symbol of conflict and incarceration transformed into a space for dialogue and peace building.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder, I think, that even the most entrenched symbols can change their meaning as societies evolve. And the transformation of the maze wasn't just symbolic. It had very real consequences. As part of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, the prison was closed.
Wow.
And hundreds of paramilitary prisoners, including McFarland, were released.
That must have been a controversial decision.
It was.
Releasing individuals who had committed acts of violence. Some of them directly responsible for loss of life, couldn't have been an easy pill to swallow.
It was a difficult and complex decision, one that sparked a lot of debate.
Okay.
Some saw it as a necessary step toward reconciliation, a way to acknowledge the grievances of both sides, and build a more inclusive society.
Okay.
Others viewed it as a betrayal of the victims of the conflict, a sense that justice hadn't been served.
It speaks to the complexities of forgiveness and reconciliation.
It does.
Especially in a situation where the wounds of the past run so deep.
Absolutely. And the legacy of the maze prison and the conflict itself is something that continues to be grappled with in Northern Ireland today.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that peace is a process, not an event.
Right.
It requires ongoing dialogue, a willingness to confront difficult truths, and a commitment to building a shared future.
The maze prison escape, then, is more than just a daring prison break.
I think so.
It's a story about human resilience, the complexities of conflict, And the unexpected ways in which change can occur.
It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a dramatic disruption, a moment that shakes the foundations of the status quo, to force us to confront our challenges and seek a different path forward.
And that's what makes this story so compelling.
Absolutely.
It's a story about people.
Yeah.
About their choices, their struggles, their triumphs and failures.
Right.
It's a reminder that history is made, not just by grand events, but by individual actions, individual decisions made under extraordinary circumstances.
This deep dive has only scratched the surface of this complex and fascinating period in history.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to delve deeper, to explore the many layers of this story and the broader context of the conflict in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
There's so much more to discover.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
On this journey into the past.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back soon.
Okay.
With another deep dive into a different corner of history.
Right.
Until then, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning.
Absolutely.
And keep learning.
Yes.